so pretty. Recording in progress. Hello, I'm back, but I was never here to begin with. This is the Factivist Report for Sunday, the 10th of July. And let me just say this before I turn this over to Dave. We had a road protest in Boston today. Fucking dismal, okay? I don't know what you all were doing, but none of you showed up. Congratulations. Dave, take it away.
Okay. We're going to be talking about the Supreme Court and how hardcore to the right they're going to go, and how people really have to start becoming aware. And by the way, if you start complaining 2 years from now, I don't want to hear it. I really don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear how Biden was useless or any of that stuff. There are people out there. I've personally talked to legislators, to assembly members, to people in other parties, all of that, and pretty much are doing what they can do. So we have to start plugging in. One of the first things we have to do is become more aware of the system. I don't have a problem with criticizing the Democrats when it's necessary. As a matter of fact, I just did. But I think part of the problem is now we're really backed in a corner, and we're going to start getting desperate and doing some crazy shit, like endorsing far right-wing candidates so we can win, because you have Republican assemblies or Republican state governments gerrymandering the hell out of their states. Florida just did it. And I'll talk about it a little at the end, but the Supreme Court's looking to make that completely legal,
right,
and allow gerrymandering everywhere. And I'm telling Democrats, if that happens, Democrats have to fight fire with fire, because it's now legal. And
right,
now we get to do it. Okay.
Right.
You cannot be squeamish when it comes to this. If that's where it goes, that's what we got to do. Okay. Tired of hearing about gerrymandering, tired of hearing about people complaining about it. You got to fight fire with fire. That's how you negotiate in this climate.
Right.
I'm telling you right now. So here we go. It's going to get nasty, and it's going to get ugly.
And by the way, let me just say one other thing. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Oh, absolutely.
And the idea here is not to cannibalize each other.
Right.
While I respect everybody who showed up in Washington to protest yesterday, Roe v. Wade, why in front of the White House? Why were you there? You needed to be in front of the Congress, in front of the GOP, pointing the finger at the people who brought you here. All right. That's where the responsibility for all of this lies. And it also lies with the voters, because you know what? We ended up with Donald Trump because not enough people on the left voted. End of story.
Now, this is a 2020 article by Ketanji Brown Jackson from the New Yorker, talking about pre-election Supreme Court shenanigans and what Trump did and all of that. So, and why, and this was basically kind of a prophecy or prophetic, saying what was going to happen. People saw this coming a mile away. Here we have the Brennan Center for Justice talking about Trump blatantly attacking the liberal court, blatantly saying what he was going to do, and he did it. 30% of the court now, district court, by the way, Trump appointees. It's hundreds of them.
Yep.
Okay.
And most of them white, young, and male. Okay.
Right. The average, I believe, is like 45 lifetime appointments. So, you know. And before you ask, I don't know if any of these are part of the J6 investigation. I'm sure some may be, but I haven't heard anything yet, just so you know. But This was Trump just basically railing on Twitter about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, about Sonia Sotomayor, you know. So this was, and he has a big grudge against the 9th District Court in DC. So, you know, a lot of it has to do with the Roger Stone case. So he's big into all caps.
He's big into being a moron.
A jackass, right?
He really has control of the fucking English language. You know, he's like the Sarah Palin of his gender.
I'm just saying that he obviously he had an agenda. Now,
from the day he was elected.
This, I'm not going to play the video. It's a short video. You guys really should watch it. It's an MSNBC video. It basically talks about 3 of the cases. One I'm going to go into a little bit of detail and cover it the next time I'm on. We're talking about the affirmative action. They're talking about they're going to decimate affirmative action. And remember, Ketanji Brown Jackson has already said she's going to recuse herself in that case. So that's even one more down. It doesn't even matter. But, you know, and then we have a gay rights case, and then we have a voting rights case, which basically gives the states rights to freaking redistrict however they want if the Supreme Court votes that way. Here is something that people may not be aware of. And I don't know why that's there. There we go. New report showcases Supreme Court abuses of what's called the shadow docket. There's a main docket, the stuff that's up there, you know, in the scheduled to be heard. And then there's a secondary docket, or the shadow docket, which basically is there just for kind of administrative reasons.
And the people might not even know about it. And
there's thousands of these potentially. Now what's happening is the Supreme Court is using the shadow docket to ram decisions through. People weren't even aware of it. Now, what I will say is that the West Virginia versus EPA case, they didn't even have to hear that case. No one was being affected in that case. It was already done. They weren't doing anything. So, and Kagan actually said that. I will say that there is, there's a 15-page report on the use of the shadow docket. And I suggest you guys take a look at this.
I'm actually going to put a page on the website. I'm going to put this report in there as well, and they can download it from both places.
Explaining what the shadow docket is, the implications, some of the things, COVID response, LGBTQ, the Muslim ban, right for the incarcerated, voting rights, and executions are some of the things that have been affected through the shadow docket. Now, here's a list of some of the major Supreme Court decisions in 2022. I'm going to go through a lot of this. The climate change, West Virginia versus the Environmental Protection Agency. I'm going to go through it at length, so I'm going to continue to go. Basically, this is saying that this is limiting the EPA's power. The Supreme Court said that the EPA was creating a law, not enforcing a law. So even though it's the environment and it is a global issue, a global health crisis, honestly. So this is immigration, Biden versus Texas. They actually did clear the way for Biden administration to end the Trump-era immigration program, forces asylum seekers arriving at the southwest border to await approval in Mexico. They actually sided with Biden in this particular case. So another case I'm going to go through a little bit. This is ruling that state authorities may prosecute non-Indians who commit crimes against Indians on the reservations. So state authorities, not the Native American. By the way, it says Indian. I don't care for that. Native American territory. They're talking about Native American territory. And the previous ruling was that those people should be prosecuted by Native American courts. I'll go into it a little bit more. School prayer. Ruled that a football coach at a public high school had a constitutional right to pray at the 50-yard line after his team's games. And not only that, but to lead students in prayer. And I will go a little bit more into that. Then we have the Dobbs decision, which we've gone over in length. The Second Amendment decision, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, which we've gone over in length. The separation of church and state. So this is Corson versus Macon. Court ruled that a Maine program that excludes religious schools from a state tuition program is a violation of the free exercise of religion. So now state programs have to include religious schools in their state tuition programs. They were actually really good with the First Amendment cases. Sherlock versus Boston ruled that the city of Boston violated the First Amendment when it refused to let a private group raise a Christian flag in front of its city hall. Also, Houston Community College system versus Wilson. Court ruled that elected bodies don't violate the First Amendment when they censure members. They actually said that censuring a member is, in fact, First Amendment protected speech in itself. Religious and the death penalty. Ramirez versus Collier. Court ruled that Texas would violate a federal law protecting religious freedom if it executed a death row inmate without allowing his pastor to touch him and pray aloud in the execution chamber. And the only one to dissent was Uncle Clarence.
Yeah.
So
I can't stand him. I actually agree with those 3 decisions, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, we put a gay flag up in front of Boston City Hall. Everybody's got to have the same rights as us. So
right. Not sure about this one. U.S. versus Zubadiah. The court ruled that the government was not required to disclose the location of a CIA black site where a detainee at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, had been tortured. I understand why Sonia Sotomayor probably dissented, because she doesn't agree with torture in the first place.
right.
But they're going to say it's a matter of national security. So this one is very interesting. Executive privilege in Trump versus Thompson. The court ruled that former President Donald J. Trump could not block the release of White House records to a House committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Look at the only dissenter. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want to piss Ginny off.
Right.
No dinner that night.
So you notice that this one is a 6-3 straight off right-wing vote, or, you know, the conservative bloc. COVID in the workplace. National Federation of Independent Business versus the Department of Labor. Court found that the Biden administration's vaccine or testing mandate for large employers was not lawful because it wasn't government employees. Again, it's a pandemic, but.
Well, you know, when they don't have enough employees to get the job done because everybody's out sick or dead, whatever, they can deal with that. You know,
right.
Again, I'm so spent on the whole public health shit. I don't think people really understand the difference between public health and oppression. Let me explain it to you.
Right.
Taking away a woman's abortion right, oppression. Wearing a mask, public health. That's how it works, okay? Your kids being vaccinated for school, public health, not dictating, okay? My kids had to be vaccinated. That actually started in the 70s. It isn't new.
Now, COVID in healthcare facilities. In Biden versus Missouri, the court found that the Biden administration's mandate to require healthcare workers at facilities receiving federal money be vaccinated was lawful. Now, I want to clarify something. The COVID virus, or the disease, does not care whether it's a federal facility or a private facility.
Right.
Air pollution.
Wake up one morning and say, oops, I'm not going to infect these people because it's a private facility.
Right. Air pollution doesn't care about state boundaries, by the way. So I just wanted to put that out there. So that's a list of all the decisions, and I'm going to go through some of the ones that I thought were a little more prevalent, or came out in my mind that we really disagreed with. Now,
the EPA one.
Yeah, this is the one that I'm going to talk about first, actually. So West Virginia versus EPA. They talk about this is a local Clarksburg, West Virginia, WBOY, Alexander Weaver on June the 30th. It's a local news site. And this is what they talk about in terms of the separation of powers. Okay, a closer look at the separation of powers. So 3 co-equal branches of government, which I don't agree with right now. I think that the SCOTUS has a lot of freaking power right now. So we have the legislative branch responsible for drafting bills, balancing the federal budget, confirming or rejecting nominations for the head of federal agencies, federal judges, and the Supreme Court, and formally declaring war. Then we have the executive branch responsible for carrying out and enforcing laws, serving as commander-in-chief of the armed forces, building and maintaining foreign relations, which, by the way, environmental policy is part of that. Passing or vetoing legislation presented by Congress. And also COVID response is part of international relations too. Right. Judicial branch, the Supreme Court of the United States, circuits of the federal courts throughout the county, and federal agencies responsible for interpreting the meaning of laws, applying laws to individual cases, deciding if laws violate the Constitution, and staying or overturning them if they do. Now, the argument was that the EPA and other federal agencies are within the executive branch, which is it's their job to enforce laws, not enact them. And the argument was that the EPA was enacting a law. Well, guess what? They weren't.
Right.
It wasn't even happening. So I thought this Hill article was really good because it basically boils down some of the arguments against it. The first thing was that Judge Elena Kagan's dissent, the sex majority's attempt at illegal reasoning. For starters, the court didn't even have to take the case. The Clean Power Plan that was targeted had long been abandoned. Market forces, including cheaper renewable energy, had already done more to protect the climate than the abandoned rules was protected to do. Agreeing to hear a case about a regulation that no longer exists is itself an extraordinary display of judicial activism, as Harvard law professor Richard Lazarus noted in the Washington Post.
So what they're actually doing, folks, is preempting the ability of the EPA to fight climate change in the short description of this. And this is another reason that Trump appointed the 3 judges he did, and he stated that as well. He stated that back in 2016, when he stated that he was going to appoint judges to overturn Roe. He was very transparent about it, and it's pretty obvious that these 3 people report to the GOP. As far as I'm concerned, they are judicial, branch of the GOP at this point.
The majority is just getting started. Kagan described blow by blow how they abandoned the basic rules of statutory construction and created a new requirement for Congress to magically appear. If an issue like protecting our air is really important, Congress must say, we really mean what we're saying. So there is another issue here, and I will call for Supreme Court reform in terms of rules on recusal. Number one, if you have recused yourself in countless cases that have come across your desk or whatever, and in district court, if it comes to a Supreme Court decision and it comes to you, you need to recuse yourself. If you have direct relations with someone who dealt with these cases, you need to recuse yourself. And this is what I mean.
We need to make recusal not an option.
It needs to be mandatory. It does.
Mandatory. Right now, it's at the discretion of the judge in question. That's not okay. That's not the way this is going to work. All right.
So this is something I found out just this week, and I appreciate there is someone out there in social media that gave this to me. I'm going to shout him out real quick. 50 Shades of Way. he set me on this, and I appreciate it. I do. Remember when Neil Gorsuch's mother tried to dismantle the EPA? She was the first female director appointed by Reagan to the EPA. She was appointed for a reason, to dismantle the EPA.
Just as Betsy DeVos was appointed
right
education position to dismantle public education. Just so you know.
Now, Neil Gorsuch is now trying to neuter the EPA. I don't know. I think there's a conflict of interest there. He may have seen Mama do this. I don't know. So we have a second one. Amy Coney Barrett, her father worked for Shell for 29 years. And she had previously recused herself on cases involving Shell oil. Okay, and this case involved Shell oil was part of this. So why would she not recuse herself in this case? Because she is a Supreme Court justice as opposed to being in a district court, and it wouldn't have mattered back then. This is why I'm saying you need to make these people recuse themselves, because now you have Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is going to recuse herself in an affirmative action case. Now, it's not going to make a difference because there's a supermajority, but what if it did make a difference?
Well, again, and I'm going to say this again. Again, you have one side that does the right thing and plays by the rules, and a side that doesn't play by the rules.
Right.
It's as simple as that. And so when people say to me, well, the Democrats don't fight dirty. No, in a lot of cases, they don't. They don't. You're right.
And not for nothing, I don't want them to fight dirty.
They wouldn't get away with it anyway with the GOP. That's the thing. So
right. But when it's a rule now. Now you get to do it. Right. Okay. Like if this comes, the gerrymandering thing comes, Democrats better learn how to do it and learn how to do it fast. I'm just saying. Here is the Supreme Court siding with a coach over prayers at the 50-yard line. Now, it's not just about Joseph Kennedy having a right to pray on the field. It's a matter of Joseph Kennedy praying with his students, because as Sonia Sotomayor argued in her dissenting opinion, now you have a matter of students being pressured on not only praying, but praying in a religion they may not be in. Maybe they're an atheist, maybe they're Buddhist, maybe they're whatever, So.
By the way, let me just say one other thing that was handed down. That's not, it's similar, but it's not that case. Now, teachers can lead students in school in prayer.
Right.
Now,
right.
You need to understand something. The kids who are going to be most adversely affected by that, I promise you, will be children who are LGBTQ and transgender children, because I will tell you now, they are going to pressure those kids using religion. I don't care what you say, that possibility exists. And I'm sorry, but I grew up in a Catholic house. My mother wanted me to have a Catholic education. She didn't take to the streets with a bunch of rabid Catholics demanding that the public school system pray the Catholic prayers. My mother paid to send me to Catholic school. That's what you fucking do.
Right.
I'm praying in public school. I'm sorry. There's this notion out there that if kids just get back to God, they'll be better behaved. That's a crock of shit. Okay. I don't want to hear it.
Right. Now, Deb, this is exactly that case, by the way. But in dissenting from Monday's decision, Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote that the majority had gone astray by prioritizing the religious rights of a school official over those of his students who could feel pressure to take part in religious activities. He was leading his students in prayer.
Right.
He was saying, well, it didn't take that long. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. Maybe the student didn't want to do it, but they felt pressured.
Right.
That is a violation of their religious freedom rights.
Right.
Now, we are now getting into a case. It confused me a little bit in the beginning, but now I'm starting to understand it. We have a large part of Oklahoma, which is considered Native American territory. All right. There was a case in which a non-Native American committed a crime against a Native American, and the state of Oklahoma wanted to prosecute him instead of having the Native Americans do it. And there was an original decision, which is said the McGirt decision, who basically said that that person should be prosecuted in the Native American court. But now, because he's non-Native American, he is going to be prosecuted in the state courts. Now, the state of Oklahoma basically made the case, with no evidence, by the way, that the Native American courts were just letting people go. And there is no evidence to that whatsoever. The Native Americans were saying that when it went to a state court, these people were being given way more lenient sentences.
Right.
So,
by the way, this is technically an assault on the sovereignty of Native American tribes.
And it's not just Oklahoma now.
Right. It affects every other state that's got Native American land. And how much more can we take away from these people? Well, I don't know. Let's ask the GOP and the right wing.
So now Trump's judges will keep moving the country to the far right for decades, unless we are able to reform the court, unless we are able to get enough of a majority to be able to reform the court. Unless we elect, I don't care who the hell it is, honestly, as long as they are, Democrat enough, whether it be Biden or whoever, somebody else, Gavin Newsom, whoever, Kamala, whatever. But you need somebody in there to be able to do this and appoint liberal judges and get judges into the court to stop this. There are judges now that are ignoring precedents and just blowing through it. And we need to stop this as quickly as possible.
Right. By the way, 9 of the judges at this level, and this is not the Supreme Court level I'm talking about now, 9 of the judges at the state, the federal judge, the state level, were deemed unworthy of judgeships by the American Bar Association. And he did not care. He appointed them anyway.
Right.
These are people who have never heard or argued a case in front of a court, and they are now judges. So, you know what? What he was looking for was someone to carry out his agenda, and that's what he did.
And by the way, even if we do get a Supreme Court majority, now a lot of these cases may die in district court.
Right.
Because we have, Trump totes.
Yeah.
So here are a few of the cases coming up, and I'm going to go into these later. We have an affirmative action case, which is pretty much a foregone conclusion that affirmative action is done.
Yep.
Okay. Gay rights case. Where do you think that's going to go?
Okay.
Yep. And we have some other stuff coming up, including this: how the Supreme Court could turbocharge gerrymandering just in time for 2024. This is the Moore-Harper case, a North Carolina gerrymandering case. Just saying, this is dangerous. This could be game, set, and match, honestly. But if this happens, any time you have, first off, you need to pay attention to these state legislatures, get as many Democrats as you can in. And I know you don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. And then go from there, and then gerrymander the shit out of it.
I'm just going to tell you this. I don't know how you think the GOP got this far. They did this by making sure they got in. This is what you need to understand. I'm going to say it again. When the left doesn't bother to vote, the right wins. When the right wins, this is what they do. So if I'm hearing anybody say to me, you can expect anybody who says, I'm thinking of sitting out the midterms, don't expect me to be nice. I'm not going to be nice. Okay? I'm just not. This is what happens. We ended up with Trump because the left didn't vote. Simple as that.
And this is a little bit of homework for you guys. Read this. Read this New York Times article. Okay? You should have a free article somewhere. I know I pay, but this is hardcore. This could really just throw everything out of whack for a long time. Just saying. The Republicans do not run on policy. They run on bullying. They run on, rigging the system. That's what they do.
That's how they have to win.
Yep. Because their policies are not popular.
Never. They're never popular.
So this is a list of the Supreme Court cases. Just gonna, here's another one. Accent Enterprise versus the Federal Trade Commission. Now they're trying to limit the power of the Federal Trade Commission. Just saying. Just take a look at everything. Take a look at it all. I'll be on vacation for a couple of weeks. Deb will take over. So get used to her smiling face. And, I'm
not going to touch those shows. We're not going to talk about the SCOTUS stuff until Dave gets back, because part of the reason is that the SCOTUS doesn't come back until October.
Right.
To talk to people now about it is kind of pointless because
I may even do this one. I may even do this one. Right. I may even do that one in September, honestly, or after Labor Day or something. I mean, but I just want to give people a taste. Okay. Take a look at this stuff. It's scary as hell. I understand people are pissed off about Roe being overturned. I get it. I do. And by the way, they're coming after gay marriage. I know that. They're coming after contraception. I know that. They're coming after interracial marriage.
Well, we didn't mention that because,
Clarence Thomas is married to a white woman, but
he's married to a white woman, but it's argued on the same.
It's coming.
As Roe,
It's coming. Guess what? The Loving case, again.
Privacy.
Same privacy.
Yep.
Same thing.
Somebody's
going to bring it up.
Yep. And by the way, just another thing that happened, John Cornyn, who was a legislator, when he tweeted out, he was happy about some SCOTUS ruling. I don't know if it was, it was. Here's what happened. Barack Obama made a tweet about how Roe v. Wade took away people's rights, 50 years of precedent, ignoring people's rights and the dangers it poses to people and all of that.
Right.
John Cornyn came back in the retort with, it's time now to address, I forget what the name of the case was, but it's basically segregation. He's basically saying, now it's time to come after and go back looking at segregation again. We're going backwards, people, backwards, okay? This is a very scary place. Now, I know the Republican Party's been around for a long time. This is not my grandfather's Republican Party, okay? This is not even close. This is a right-wing, militia, Christian nationalist-driven right wing. We have Texas talking about seceding. Let them go. Okay, I'm at that point now. But we also have a situation where some states are discussing whether women should have the vote. I don't think women really understand what's going on here. If women are angry about Roe v. Wade, they sure didn't show it today. Okay? I mean, we had a number of people commit to showing up for this protest. And I want to thank the people who took the subway from Salem, Massachusetts to come in and support us in Boston, because they had 100 people in Salem the last time they protested. With them and us on the streets, there were 9 of us, maybe, if we were lucky. Okay, that's disappointing given the fact that Sarah and I spend a lot of time and a lot of our own money on this stuff. Okay, when you commit to something and then don't show up, you piss people off. I'm just letting you know that. So you can either channel your anger and do something to change your situation, or you can just keep posting memes on fucking Facebook, whatever you choose. But don't call yourself an activist if that's all you're going to do. All right.
I got a couple more things to say. I don't want to hear anybody bitch about the Congressional Medal of Freedoms and the fact that that Biden gave Congressional Medal of Freedoms posthumously to John McCain and one to Alan Cranston. That was a different Republican Party. Okay. This Republican Party now is only, it's like talking to a brick wall. There's only a couple people that are moderately sane in that party. I disagreed vehemently with those two, but yeah.
Most of the moderately sane Republicans are not seeking re-election.
Correct.
Because he has been threatened. His life has been threatened. He's, chosen not to run again. Adam Kinzinger is not running again. Liz Cheney is running again, but has stated she doesn't care if she loses her seat as a result of what she's doing with the J6 Commission, because she's doing the right thing. And by the way, one of the greatest clips I saw, I actually posted it in the J6 Commission group, was someone asked Jamie Raskin about his friendship with Liz.
Right.
And he replied that he can't wait to get back to disagreeing with her on just about everything. But right now we're in constitutional crisis and it's all hands on deck. And this is exactly where we are. Some people recognize how dangerous a position we're in. Most people in this country are oblivious. They're all on a COVID hangover. All they care about now is partying, okay? You know what? The party's over, folks. The party is
And
over.
by the way, another one. For the name of God, in the name of God, gas prices. Okay. First off, they're going down. Second off, if that's the only thing that you're worried about, expect all of your rights to go away. All of them. You're blaming Biden for that? Really? I don't know. I just have a feeling that,
Well,
Trump's,
that comes from the GOP.
yeah.
On Twitter every day. It's, I paid $4.97 for gas. Thanks, Joe Biden. You get that from Lauren Boebert and
Right.
Marjorie Taylor Greene and all the rest of the nimrods out there that really haven't got a fucking clue, because none of those people should ever have been elected. They have no clue what government is, first of all. None of them can even write a bill, let alone read a bill.
And by the way, let's say you try to
regulated, by the way,
Yeah.
a lot of those industries during his term. 1981 was the date when he deregulated the gas and oil industry. And so
What I was going to say is, let's see if we can regulate the gas prices again without the fucking Supreme Court coming back and saying that we can't do it because it's government overreach.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So before you open your mouth, think about it.
About it. You know what you're talking about, because you don't most of the time. All right, gang. We done? Will you any more? Are we good? We
Yeah, I
good?
think we're good. Yeah.
I'm going to stop the recording because I could go on forever, and I already did a nasty video earlier. So see you later.